testing, testing, testing.
It took a couple of those EPA hearings to figure out how to keep track of everything while using the computer. But
Yeah, well,
Okay, so we're on the record in case 9655, and we're with staff, right?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Hoover. We would call to the stand our final, staff would call to the stand its final witness, Roger Austin.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you're about to give? And could you please spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Roger Austin, R-O-G-R-A-U-S-I-N,
And could you provide us with your business address?
674 Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21260.
Are you all ready, Mr. Austin?
I am
Okay, could you please give us your name, your work address, please?
Roger Austin, 6 St. Paul Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 2021202.
And what are your job responsibilities at the commission?
I'm an engineer.
And did you prepare a public and confidential version of direct testimony that was filed in this proceeding on November 15th, 2024?
Yes.
Your Honor, we would, do you have any corrections or changes to that testimony?
Nothing of consequence.
Your Honor, we would ask that to be identified, I think, we're up to staff 8?
7.
7, okay. We would ask that Mr. Austin's direct be staff exhibit 7.
So, just so we're consistent, so it's going to be 7FR,
Right,
and his confidential version would be 7FRC.
yes, thank you.
Okay.
7FR and 7FRC. Thank you, Chair Hoover. And
Mark?
And did you file surrebuttal testimony on February 28th, 2025?
I did.
Your Honor, we would ask that, I'm sorry, do you have any changes or corrections to that?
No.
Your Honor, staff would ask that Mr. Austin's surrebuttal be marked for identification as 8FR.
So marked.
And we would ask that 7FR and 8FR be admitted into the record.
So admitted.
And just to be safe, I want to can you confirm that staff 1 and 2 were,
Yes.
those went in, the Livingston, the
Yeah.
two, okay, those two cross exhibits I put in.
Yeah.
Brief rejoinder, your Chair Hoover, for Mr. Austin. During the first day of the evidentiary hearing in this proceeding, March 6th, Pepco witness Amber Young addressed the following statement on page 9, lines 8 to 10 of your surrebuttal, and I'll read that.
Your Honor, it's my understanding that no one but Pepco got rejoinder. So I'm going to object to that.
Well, I think, Your Honor, this I think will clarify the issues and add valuable information.
All right, so start again.
Okay. During the first day of the hearing on March 6, 2025, Pepco witness Amber Young addressed the following statement on page 9, lines 8 to 10 of your surrebuttal. And the statement was, quote, "At the evidentiary hearing, the company will need to clarify what was the correct cost to remediate feeders 14229 and 14233 and prove the prudency of the chosen remediation," close quote. Do you have any response to Ms. Young's comment?
Yes. So, to read the sentence again, go to page 11, lines 7 through 10 in my surrebuttal testimony. So I said, in summary, my recommendation to disallow any expenditures incurred for the remediation performed under the Miscellaneous Reliability Improvements Program in 2023 will hinge upon the company's ability to clarify the cost to remediate feeders 14229 and 14233 and prove the prudency of the chosen remediation. So she indeed provided a cost to remediate the two feeders. I think she said 492,000. But the last part of the sentence, I'm afraid she was not able to provide that information. And I will explain why. So let's go to my to my direct testimony. Where I discuss miscellaneous reliability improvements, the projects that fall under that program. Starting on page 66, bleeds over into 67. Going all the way down to page 68. At the very bottom of page 68, you'll see a table where there's a number of there's different information that I need in order to at least determine whether the remediation that was performed was cost effective or cost beneficial. And while she provided the true cost of remediation, I would need more information, like the number of residential customers, number of non-residential customers, SAFE and SADI, in order to be able to calculate the cost per interruption. Okay, and then once I know the cost of interruption, the cost per interruption, and compare that against the remediation cost, I'll be able to determine whether at least this project was cost beneficial. And in the event that the project was not cost beneficial, then as was done for feeders, there are a couple of feeders here, 15284, 15288, that were also remediated under this miscellaneous reliability improvement projects. If you look at the table, you'll see that the remediation cost outweighed the cost per interruption by quite a bit, but the company was able to provide follow-up information to allow me to determine that they were anticipating a problem and preventing it by remediating those two feeders in the way that they did. So I would need similar information for feeders 14229 and 14233 in order to disagree with witnesses Alvarez and Stevens.
Okay, also on that first day of hearing, March 6th, 2025, Ms. Young addressed the following statement that begins on page 12, line 19 of your surrebuttal. Let me know when you're there.
Yeah, I'm there.
The quote, "The company will therefore need to prove the prudency of its choice of remediation for feeder 14206 in the evidentiary hearings. My recommendation to not disallow any expenditures incurred for the remediation performed under the Priority Feeder Improvements Program in 2023 will hinge upon the company's ability to do so," end quote. Do you have any comments in response to that statement?
Yes, so Pepco witness Young again said that the company provided, I don't remember her exact words, but validation of this work in Pepco response to I think she said, I think she misspoke. She said staff data request 8-1, but I think she meant staff data request 18-5. Not 13-5, sorry. And as you will notice in my surrebuttal testimony, I actually referenced Pepco's response to 13-5, and I did say, even though I've read those notes that they provided, but it wasn't enough for me to be able to come to a conclusion that would allow me to disagree with OPC's witnesses, Alvarez and Stevens, to disallow those costs.
Okay, let me refer you now to page 28, lines 13 through 17 of your surrebuttal.
Which lines what? Page what?
I'm sorry, page 28,
Page 28.
lines 13 through 17.
Yes, I'm there.
Now, here you address the status of Pepco's drainage and driveway remediation projects.
Right.
Has Pepco provided you additional information after you filed your surrebuttal?
So, Ms. Young did answer the question. She said that in her understanding, those 5 projects. So the reason why I was disallowing these costs is because there was a bit of confusion with the information back and forth between us and Pepco. At one time, I thought the projects were used and useful. Then the very last data response I got from them, apparently they were no longer used and useful. And Pepco witness Young said, to her understanding, the 5 projects were not used and useful, but we would need to confirm with witness Lemming. And I think everybody forgot to question witness Lemming when he got up here. But you and I had a sidebar with Pepco counsel and witness Lemming, and witness Lemming said that the 5 projects were indeed used and useful. So I'd leave it to you legal folks to figure that out.
So to clarify, of the, 19 projects you found out from this conversation, which I guess was on Friday, with Ms. Young, that 5 of those are in service.
Yes.
That's all we have on live rejoinder, Chair Hoover.
Okay. Aoba.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Austin.
Good afternoon. I assume I'm speaking to the fantastic Francis.
Thank you. I haven't heard me referred to as that before, but I'll take it. Let's see. I'd like you to turn to, please, page 2 of your direct testimony. And at page 2, lines 3 through 4 of your direct in this proceeding, you state, quote, I will review the capital expenditures that the company is trying to reconcile in RY3, end quote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why are you trying to reconcile and not just reconciling?
I'm trying to reconcile them. That's what I said.
Is there any special meaning you put onto the word trying rather than I am reconciling?
I don't really see a difference between the two.
Okay. Are the capital expenditures that you reference in that statement the projected and actual capital expenditures for RY that, God bless you, that Pepco witness Lemming presents in his RTL-1 Schedule 4?
Yes.
Am I correct that at no point in your direct testimony do you specifically address the content of Pepco witness Lemming's Schedules RTL-2 and RTL-3?
Correct.
In the rebuttal testimony of Pepco witness Lemming, Table 1, pages 6 through 8, you may want to turn to that.
Rebuttal, you said?
Rebuttal testimony of witness Lemming.
Okay.
Tell me when you're there, Mr. Austin.
Okay. Yes, I'm in his rebuttal testimony.
In the rebuttal testimony of Pepco witness Lemming, Table 1 at pages 6 through 8, and in his schedule RTL-R-2, witness Lemming presents the dollar amounts by ITN that Pepco includes in its RY3 plant additions. Have you reviewed the RY3 dollar amounts for plant additions by ITN that witness Lemming presents in his rebuttal testimony, or is that a task left to staff's accounting witness?
No, I reviewed what was presented in his direct testimony.
Okay, so direct only, not rebuttal.
Not rebuttal, no.
Would you please indicate for the commission where in your rebuttal testimony in this proceeding you address that RY3 plant additions that Pepco witness Lemming presents in his rebuttal testimony?
I have not addressed any of his rebuttal testimony.
Are you aware that the dollar amounts that Pepco witness Lemming presents for RY3 plant additions in his rebuttal testimony include capital expenditures incurred in periods prior to RY3 for projections that were subsequently completed in rate year 3?
So again, you read you read from my direct testimony at the very beginning, and I only respond to witness Lemming's direct testimony.
Okay. So the direct answer to the short answer to my question would be, I am not aware. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you agree that the prudence of capital expenditures for a project cannot be assessed until the project is completed and placed in service?
I don't want to get into the prudence because I try to avoid examining these projects for their prudence. I try to interrogate them for any evidence of imprudence. Prudence is a nebulous idea in my mind, so it's easier to determine imprudence than to prove prudence. So I stuck with trying to identify imprudence. So don't ask me any questions about prudence. Well, I guess I can't tell you not to ask me any questions.
Would you agree with me that this case is about determining the prudence of Pepco's expenditures?
Yes, Pepco has to prove the prudence of their expenditures, but as your own witness, Oliver astutely observed, I did not examine their projects for their prudence. And I can read his quote directly if it would make any difference. But, you know, I examined their projects for evidence of imprudence.
Okay. Does your testimony identify the dollar amounts of capital expenditures from prior periods that Pepco now seeks to include in its RY3 additions to plant in service by ITN?
The only project that I'm aware of from previous periods is the Livingston Stone battery energy storage project. That's the only one.
Are you suggesting there are no others, or that is the only one that you are aware of?
That's the only one that I am aware of.
Would you accept that the dollar amounts that Pepco Witness Lemming shows for RY3 plant additions often reflect costs substantially in excess of the company's reported actual RY3 expenditures for the project as detailed by ITN number?
So, as many other witnesses who have come under your withering cross-examination have had to ask you to, I apologize in advance. Your questions tend to be wordy, so I may have to ask you to RSVP them. Repeat, s'il vous plaît. So RSVP, please.
I have no problem in repeating a question as many times as you want to hear it. So let me try it again. Would you accept that the dollar amounts that Pepco Witness Lemming shows for RY3 plant additions often reflect costs substantially in excess of Pepco's reported actual RY3 capital expenditures for the project as detailed by ITN number?
No, I don't know the answer to that question.
You can't answer that question?
I can't.
Okay. Okay. Have you presented any analysis that verifies the accuracy and appropriateness of capital investment expenditures from prior periods that Pepco seeks to include in its RY3 plant additions for each ITN?
RSVP.
Did you want me to repeat it?
Yes.
Okay. Have you presented any analysis that verifies the accuracy and appropriateness of the capital investment expenditures from prior periods that Pepco seeks to include in its RY3 plant additions for each ITN?
No, I only reviewed what they're attempting. What I only reviewed their expenditures for RY3, except for the Livingston Road battery energy storage project.
So at this moment, you can't tell me if Pepco's expenditures for RY3 plant additions for each ITN include costs for prior periods.
No.
Can I assume that the starting points for your review of Pepco's final RY3 expenditures were the company's June 28, 2024 Rate Year 3 Annual Information Filing and the details by FERC account and project that are presented in the schedules attached to Pepco witness Lemming's direct testimony that was filed in late July 2024.
Yes.
Would you agree that in both the company's AIF and in witness Lemming's schedules RTL-1, RTL-2, and RTL-3, project costs are presented by ITN number?
Yes.
Can you explain why in your direct testimony in this proceeding is devoid of references to ITN numbers for the projects that you have reviewed?
I didn't think it was necessary. I refer to them by name.
Am I correct that your educational background reflect both bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering?
Yes.
Am I correct that you do not represent yourself as an attorney, as an accountant, as a financial analyst, or as an economist?
Yes.
Did your review of Pepco's 2023 capital expenditures constitute an accounting audit of the costs Pepco has charged to each project reviewed?
No.
Your Honor, I believe the commission has AOPA's cross-examination exhibits. I'm going to pass them out to the parties and the witness. Guys, Kim, those are two.
Thanks, Frank.
Lloyd, you- Hold back. Did you want to give this to your witness?
Take your time, take it.
You don't want this to be over? Take that. Do you have that packet of exhibits?
I do.
Now, I would like you first to reference what I will mark for the record as AOBA Exhibit 20FR,
Yes.
which contains copies of your response to AOBA Data Request 1-1, and on the next page, 1-2. Do you see that?
I do.
And you are the sponsor
Yes.
of each of those data requests?
Yes.
Are those responses true and correct to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
You have any updates to those responses?
No.
Your Honor, I move the admission of AOBA Exhibit 20FR.
So admitted.
Would you rather me do all my exhibits at the end or as I go through them?
I don't think, I mean, whatever works easier for you.
Okay. Now, please, let's take a look at page 74, lines 4 through 13 of your direct testimony. And tell me when you're there, please.
Page 74. What lines?
4 through 13.
Okay.
Okay. Now, at the reference page and lines, you discuss your recommendation regarding Pepco's cost for its white oak switchgear replacement project. You see that?
I do.
Is this the project Pepco witnessed Lemming schedules reference as ITN 73102? And for you to verify that, you can look at RTL-1, Schedule 5, page 3 of 7.
Schedule 5, you said.
Yes, RTL-1, Schedule 5, page 3 of 7.
Won't it also be on Schedule 4? Let me see. Okay, 3 of 7, you said.
Yes, 3 of 7, excuse me.
And
I'm just checking the project number. I know there may be other references.
yeah, so yeah, that. What's the number you said it is?
73102.
73102. Yes, I see it.
Okay. Is your rationale for not recommending any disallowance of expenditures for Pepco's white oak switchgear replacement project for 2023 simply that the company's explanation for the cost variance for that project, quote, seems reasonable, end quote?
Yes, that's what I state in my direct testimony.
At page 74, now looking at lines 7 through 8 of your direct testimony, you cite the company's expectation at the time of its initial filing in case number 9655 that the project would be completed in 2020 at a cost of approximately $2.1 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, please turn to Witness Lemming's direct testimony, RTL 1, Schedule 4, page 5 of 11. Are you there?
Not as yet. So we're looking for what page?
5 of 11. Schedule 4, page 5 of 11.
Yes. I'm there.
Okay, good. Now, does the second line on this page address ITN 73102 White Oak Switchgear Replacement Project?
It does.
The entries on that line show $0 of projected expenditures for 2023 and $1,393,000 of actual expenditures for ITN 73102 in 2023. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell the commission, was the $1,393,000 expenditure reported for 2023 in addition to or a replacement for some or all of the costs that were planned for that project in 2020?
Okay, so at the time of filing, the project was expected to be completed in 2020. So that means they would have started in 2020. And then it was placed on hold to allow for an investigation, and then it restarted again in 2023.
Now, but what I'm asking is, I understand that. I'm asking, looking at page 5 of 11, in the column that says for White Oak switchgear, 2023 actual, my question is, was that $1,393,000 expenditure reported for 2023 in addition to or a replacement for some or all of the costs that were planned for the project in 2020?
This would be in addition to the costs that would have been incurred in 2020. Is my
So we add the 1,393,000 to the 2.1, correct?
correct?
Oh.
Add the 1.3 to what? The 2.1?
Well, you said in your testimony,
Oh.
line 8, it says at a cost of approximately 2.1.
Right.
Now
So
we're looking at Schedule 4, page 5, and we see 2023 cost of $1,393,000. And you said that those costs were in addition to the cost for 2020 of $2.1 million. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you were saying? I want to make sure I heard you correctly.
So, in 2020, they forecasted that the project would be complete for 2.1 million. There was an accident, it was put on hold, and started up again in 2023, where they incurred cost of 1.3 million, 1.4 million. So it would be 1.4 million in addition to whatever cost they would have incurred in 2020. They did not incur cost of 2.1 million in 2020, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. But now what we're talking about is for 2000, oh wait, I thought you just said you take the 2.1 million that was put on hold for 220,
Right.
add to it, let's round to 1.4.
No, they're not adding the 1.4 to the 2.1 million. The
Tell me
2.1 million is what they estimated the cost of the project would be in 2020. They apparently started work on the project in 2020, put it on hold, and then they started up again in 2023, incurred cost of 1.4 million. I don't know how much cost was incurred in 2020
So we don't know how much would get added to.
to the 1.4.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm going to ask this question a different way. Can you tell the commission what dollar amounts were actually spent on this project in calendar year 2020, in calendar year 2021, and in calendar year 2022?
I don't know how much was spent in 2020. I'm sure we have the information for 21 and 22 somewhere.
Okay. somewhere in your testimony?
Well, remember we did 21 and 22 was rate year 1, rate year 2 in this case. So that I have that information somewhere.
Is it somewhere in your filed testimony?
Not in my file testimony.
Thank you. Now, I'd like you to reference, it's in your packet that I just passed out, a copy of staff's response to AOBA data request 2, question 213.
I'm there.
I need a minute. And you see that you are the sponsor
Yes,
of AOBA data request number 2 to the commission staff?
correct.
Your Honor, I'd like to have that marked for the record as AOBA Exhibit 21FR.
So marked.
Mr. Austin, is that response true and correct to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of AOBA Exhibit 21.
So moved.
Does your response, looking at that response, Mr. Austin, does your response to parts A through C of AOBA data request set 2, question 2-13, indicate that you did not ask the company any questions regarding the variance explanation that is provided for ITN 73102?
Yes.
White Oak switchgear?
Yes.
So, when witness Lemming variance explanation referenced a temporary hold on the project, you did not query the company regarding the length of that temporary hold. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Am I correct that you sought no further information regarding when the reported injury to a mobile operator occurred or the severity of the reported injury?
That's correct.
Are you aware that Pepco witness Lemmings RTL-R Schedule 2 indicates the company is now seeking acceptance of $3.4 million of RY3 plant closing cost for ITN 73102?
No. But I don't doubt it's there.
Would you accept subject to check?
Yes. I think Schedule 2 was a little more accounting-y kind of schedule, so...
Would you like to check now or should
No, I don't need to
Okay.
check it. I take your word
they
for it.
accept it subject to check?
Yeah.
Now, I am going to ask you to look at a copy of Pepco's January 31st, 2022 update project list filing, which was entered as an exhibit yesterday as AOBA 2FR during the cross-examination of Pepco witness Young. Could I ask your counsel to hand that to you if you don't have it?
I have those DRs somewhere.
Take a minute and find it.
Those filings. Let me see. Is this the one where you were cross-examining Pepco witness Young over the 6 to 9 kV corrective maintenance?
I cross-examined witness Young about quite a bit. It's the one that says on the first page, January 31st, 2021, but we all agreed should be, well, Pepco agreed. It was filed January 31st, 2022. There was a typo on the first page.
Hold on, I'll find it.
See if I have an extra.
Project list for rate year 3 or rate year 2?
Well, all it says is it's a filing done on January 31st, 2022. And it says 2022 Pepco Maryland Project List Capital, February 1st, 2022.
Got you. Okay.
Okay?
The one I have, the one I just opened said January 31, 2021.
But on the second page, it says January 31st, 2022.
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
Addressed to Jamie Smith from Doug Michael.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay. And on the fourth page of that document is a cover page, and that cover page says 2022 Pepco Maryland Project List Capital, February 1st, 2022.
Got it.
Okay. Now, if you now take a look at page 6 of that document,
And there,
okay,
page 6.
and towards the bottom of page 6, we find a table that is labeled System Performance Distribution. And in the lower half, there is an entry for project 73102, White Oak Switchgear Replacements, Pepco, Maryland. Do you see that?
I see it.
Am I correct that this project, we'll start over. Am I correct that this project, which Pepco initially indicated would be completed in 2020, shows up in this 2022 project listing as a new project for 2022 with a cost for that year of $2,579,000
You are correct.
and $197,000 of further projected expenditures for 2023?
Yes.
Where in your testimony in this proceeding is your investigation of that change in ITN 73102 discussed?
I don't discuss it.
So, is it your testimony that a project that was initially perceived to cost less than $2.2 million has had its total cost increase to over $3.4 million, a 50% increase, and what you are telling this commission is that the cost for the cost variance for that project seems reasonable?
We don't know that because this is forecasted in this project list. The 2.579 million for 2022 is a forecasted spend. The 197,000 for 2023 is a forecasted spend. We do not know if they spent any money in 2022.
However, in your testimony we covered several questions ago, you said that the cost for the cost variance of this project seems reasonable, and you do not recommend any disallowance.
Right. So the cost provided was what 2.4 million, and they so far spent what 1.4 million. I think that's what they had in rate year three.
Well,
Oh, here it is. Project would be completed in 2020 at a cost of 2.1 million, and thus far they've spent 1.4 million, as far as I know.
but now, we just discussed,
Yeah, you're showing me a forecasted spend in 22. With you got to give me an actual spend in 22. Do you have their rate year two actual informational filing? Because you may be onto something,
let's explore that. What do you mean, I may be onto something?
I mean, you're trying to say the company spent more, the variance is greater than the 2.1 million. But I'm saying that the information you're providing me here is a forecasted spend, not an actual spend. The actual spend for 2022 would be in their rate year two annual informational filing, not their. So you're giving me the project list filing. The project list is just a budget. The annual informational filing is what they actually spent.
Okay, you want to take me to that AIF and show me what they actually spent? Because in your testimony, you said it seems reasonable.
Your Honor, I'm just going to object to the extent that we're going to be talking about rate year two costs, which have already been placed into rates in case number 9702, and they're not relevant here. All of those costs were allowed for recovery in 9702 as it related to rate year two. So we're here to talk about rate year three, so this whole rate year two talk is not relevant to this proceeding.
What's relevant, Your Honor, is going to be the total cost of the project. And here it's listed as a new project on a Pepco filing. So the total cost of the project is definitely what we're here to talk about, is the
it was
prudence of the spend.
It was listed as a new project in rate year two, which was resolved in case number 9702, Your Honor.
It's listed as a new project for 2023. I'm reading from your document, new project that was not included in previous filings. And this was filed January 31st, 2022.
And this is discussed in Austin's direct testimony, so I'm going to allow it.
So what is the question now?
Well, you said that I may be onto something, and I was just asking you to explain that response.
I said if you can find the actual informational filing for rate year two, to say, well, the company spent way more than this 2.1 million, then you may be onto something. So let us see if we can find the rate year two actual informational filing. All right, so this is what's the project number? 73102.
73102, White Oak Switchgear.
Could the witness let us know what document he's in? So.
All right, so I'm now looking at Pepco's rate year two annual informational filing filed on 6/30/23.
Thank you.
And I do not see any actual spend for 73102. So, there.
Have you completed your answer?
Yes, I said I have not. I'm looking at their rate year 2 annual informational filing filed on 6/30/2023, and I do not see any actual spend for project 73102.
So no actual spend is provided?
No. And this is schedule, let me see, Appendix 1, Schedule 4, page 1 of 4.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to please turn to page 46, lines 5 through 7 of your direct testimony.
Page 46.
Tell me when you're there. Lines 5 through 7.
I'm there.
Now, at page 46, lines 5 through 7, you indicate that Pepco confirms that its expenditures for facilities relocation work include actual cost to perform the relocation less any CIC collected. Am I correct that as reflected in response to staff data request 3-11B for RY3 AIF, which is referenced by footnote 151 on page 46 of your direct testimony, provides the confirmation from Pepco of the treatment of CIAC you discussed?
Yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'd like to mark as an exhibit Pepco's response to staff data request 3-11, which is in your packet, which I'd like to mark for the record as AOBA Exhibit 22FR.
So marked.
Now, taking a look at that response, Mr. Austin, company witness Cantler is the sponsor, but what I want to ask you is this the data request response that you relied upon when drafting your testimony at page 46, lines 5 through 7?
3-11B?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to move AOBA Exhibit 22 in evidence.
So moved.
I would just say, just for the record, that he was not the witness who offered this up. I understand that he cited it in his testimony.
And relied upon it
Yeah.
in his testimony. Now, please turn to your discussion of new business connections that starts on page 46 of your direct testimony.
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, at page 47, lines 9 through 11, you state, staff has verified that the company is not double billing ratepayers by including CIAC payments associated with new business connections. When you refer to staff in that statement, are you referring to a verification made by you or persons under your direct supervision and control?
Made by me.
Now, I would like to have marked as an exhibit, it is in your packet, a copy of staff's response to AOBA data request 1-12. Your Honor, I would like to have that marked as AOBA Exhibit 23FR.
So marked.
Mr. Austin, am I correct that you are the sponsor of the staff's response to AOBA DR 1-12 of the Commission staff?
Yes.
Is your response to AOBA data request 1-12 true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
Your Honor, I ask that AOBA Exhibit 23FR be moved into evidence.
So admitted.
Now, looking at that response, Mr. Austin, in the second sentence of your response to AOBA DR 1-12, you state, I'm quoting, responses to discovery questions are taken to be truthful under penalty of perjury, end quote. In that context, I ask you to reference your direct testimony at page 1, lines 8 through 18.
Page 46.
Page 1, lines 8 through 18.
Page 1, okay.
Just review for yourself.
Page 1, lines 2 through 18. Yes.
Now, were you advised by counsel to make the statement regarding perjury?
No.
And I believe we established earlier that you are not an attorney?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you to focus on, again on page 1, this time on line 15 through 18 of your direct testimony. And at those lines, you indicate that your responsibilities include reviewing the cost of infrastructure projects brought before the Commission may impose on ratepayers versus the benefits such infrastructure projects may provide. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is it your testimony at page 1, lines 15 through 18 of your direct testimony that your responsibilities as a member of the Commission staff include reviewing the cost of infrastructure projects brought before this Commission may impose on ratepayers versus the benefits such infrastructure projects may provide?
Yes.
Am I correct that your efforts to quantify estimates of cost and benefits for Pepco's capital projects are limited to those projects that can be associated with measures of outage impacts in terms of SAIDI, safety, and semi-data?
Yes.
Now, I would like you to reference the exhibits and schedules that accompany Pepco Witness Lemming's July 29th, 2024 RY3 Final Reconciliation Direct Testimony and focus initially on RTL-1, page 5, Schedule 5, page 1 of 7.
Okay, so we're going to Lemming's direct testimony.
RTL-1.
Oh, hold on. Just let me get to his direct testimony. Okay, I'm at his direct testimony, and you want me to go to schedule what?
Okay. Direct testimony, RTL 1, Schedule 5, page 1 of 7.
I'm there.
Okay. Now, please focus on the fifth line of that table on that page where we see the entry 70251.
Yes, 6 to 9 kV lines, NRL.
69 kV lines NRL sub 168 to Blue Plains sub 83, correct?
Correct?
Am I correct that the dollar amounts on that line reflect total Pepco expenditures for calendar year 2023 of $21,000 and a Maryland allocated amount of just $12,000?
Yes.
Now, please turn to Witness Lemming's schedule RTL-2.
Okay.
Wait 1 second. Schedule 1. About 10 lines down from the top of the first page of data in that schedule, we again find the entry for ITN 70251, 69 kV lines NRL sub 168 to Blue Plains sub 83. Do you see that line?
I do.
Would you agree that in the column headed 2023A, capital expenditures, we find the same $21,000 amount that is presented in Witness Lemming's RTL-1 Schedule 5?
Yes.
However, in the second column, under the heading 2023A, plant closings, we find an entry for ITN 70251 of $6,819,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you point the commission to anywhere in your direct testimony in this proceeding that you address the reasonableness and prudence of the $6,819,000 amount that Pepco proposes to include in its 2023 actual plant closings?
So this project was not included in Schedule 4, which is the schedule that I reviewed for expenditures.
So you didn't review this?
No.
Is it your understanding that this commission has previously ruled on the reasonableness and prudence of the $6,798,000 of cost in addition to Pepco's calendar year 2023 expenditures of $21,000 for this project?
I don't know.
Now, if we look at the next line on that page, we see an entry for ITN 7044.
Yep.
Pepco 121 Bell Mill T10. Would you agree that the entries on that line show 2023 capital expenditures of $1,310,000 and 2023 plant closings of $6,677,000?
I agree.
Does anything in your file direct testimony, in this case, address that difference between the company's reported actual 2023 capital expenditures and the amount that Pepco seeks to include in its plant closings?
No. And I just want to verify whether I even reviewed that project. So this system performance substation project. I may not have even reviewed that project. Let me take one look in one other place to verify.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I might not have even reviewed that project. If it did not have spending in 2023, I may not have had cause to review it.
Okay.
So that is 70044. 70044 is not a project that appears on Schedule 4 of Pepco's Rate Year 3 Annual Informational Filing.
No, but it appears on Lemmings RTL-2, Schedule 1.
Yeah, for an engineer, that's just accounting magic. I can't explain it.
Okay. Now, please turn to pages 179 and 180
Of my direct
of
testimony.
the direct testimony. And on the last line of page 179 and continuing through page 180, line 2, you present a recommendation regarding the EU Exelon Utilities Next Generation Digital Platform. Is that correct?
Correct.
Am I correct that the EU Next Generation Digital Platform Project is ITN 77920?
Subject to check, I believe you.
Okay. I'll give you a site just in case. RTL-1, Schedule 5, page 6 of 7. Am I correct that your recommendation regarding that project is for the company to report the completion of the project to the Commission, identify the final allocated cost to Pepco, and explain any significant overruns?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you to please turn to your testimony regarding your recommendation for Pepco's mobile dispatch mapping program, which starts at page 158, line 3 of your direct testimony.
Okay, I'm there.
Do you accept, subject to check, that Pepco's mobile dispatch mapping program is ITN 71558?
Subject to check.
Okay. I'll give you a site, RTL-1, Schedule 4, page 9 of 11. do I understand from your testimony that Pepco initially budgeted about $4.2 million for this project and actually spent about $5.5 million, or 31% more than budgeted?
Yes, that's what it says.
Then for 2022, Pepco budgeted $3.2 million and $5.7 million. I'm going to say that again. Then for 2002, Pepco budgeted $3.2 million and spent $5.7 million, 81% more than budgeted. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, turning to page 157, lines 12 through 13, you indicate that Pepco spent about $3.5 million on the One MDS program in 2023, or about $3.4 million more than budgeted. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Now, in support of that representation, you provide footnote 587, which references mail log number 310505, Schedule 4, page 9 of 11. Am I correct that ML number 310505 is Pepco's June 28, 2024 RY3 annual information filing?
Yes, I believe it is. Or at least that's what I intended that mail log number to reference to.
I would like you to take a look at Pepco's June 28th, 2024 annual information filing for rate year 3. That's in your cross-examination packet. And Your Honor, I would like to have that marked for as an, is it 23?
24.
24 as AOBA Exhibit 24FR. Do you recognize this document?
I do.
Okay. And you've reviewed it before?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to move AOBA Exhibit 24FR in evidence.
So moved.
Now, would you agree that the content of Schedule 4 in Pepco's June 28, 2024 AIF is identical to the content of Pepco Witness Lemming's RTL-1 Schedule 4 in this proceeding?
I believe it is, yes.
Would you accept, subject to check, that both of these documents reflect zero projected expenditures for 2023 for Pepco's mobile dispatch mapping project, ITN 71558, but report actual 2023 expenditures for that project of $3,524,000?
Yes.
To recap, the company's cost projections and reported actual expenditures over the 3 years of Pepco's MYP from 2021 through 2023. Am I correct that Pepco budgeted a total of about $7.4 million over that period, but spent $14.7 million, or nearly double its initial budget?
You are correct.
Now, at page 158, line 19. Through page 159, line 2, we again find your recommendation regarding Pepco's mobile dispatch mapping program that states, I quote, "The commission should order the company to report the completion of the one MDS implementation project to the commission, the final cost allocated to Pepco, and an explanation of any significant cost overruns." Do you see that?
Yes.
How does that recommendation address the reconciliation of Pepco's budgeted and actual cost for rate year 3 and/or the company's request for recovery of additional rate year 3 revenue?
So it would seem as though the company is juggling its priorities. It's basically bringing forward spending for one project in this case, and it's probably not spending in other areas. So I do not have a problem with them doing that. As long as at the end of the spend, I believe this project was here we go. The cost for this entire project.
Your
Well-
Honor, I would just,
Oh,
it's a little
This-
too late,
sorry,
but that was a highly confidential
I
number.
forgot. Sorry.
And I didn't know he was gonna go there.
We didn't either. All right.
Can we just
I don't
strike
think we
that?
can unring the bell, but so no, I understand. So and so just
I forgot. Yeah.
because
Sorry.
your testimony in this chunk is full of.
Yeah,
that's
it is. Yeah. It was when you're.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, there is a cost there for the project. My concern is that they don't overstep that final cost, and if they do, provide an explanation. I'm not concerned that they brought this spending forward to rate year 3. I mean, if the commission has a problem with that, that's their, they can rule on that.
In fact, your testimony offers essentially the same recommendations that the commission should order the company to report the completion of a project, the final cost of a project, and provide explanation of significant overruns for at least 15 different projects or groups of projects. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there any evidence in your testimony that the project expenses listed in Pepco's RY2 AIF were placed into service in RY2 and were part of the additional revenues the commission approved for rate year 2?
I didn't discuss anything about RY2 in this testimony.
So the answer would be you don't
The
know.
answer is no. No, or I don't know.
You used the word juggling, that the company is juggling in your previous responses. I find that an interesting word. Do you cite any evidence in your testimony of corresponding reductions in other projects that Pepco has done to offset the increases that Pepco is now proposing in other projects?
Yes.
Could you show me where?
You can look throughout the schedule 4. You will see where there is minus 100% spending, minus 11%. The overall variance is just 5.8%. So
The overall variance of what?
the overall variance of what they budgeted for rate year 3 and what they actually spent is 5.8%. So in some cases, while they're spending 200% more, in other cases they're spending 200% less. So and the overall variance is just about 5.8%. So that shows you that they're juggling their priorities. depending on what's going on.
Well, the commission approved, and I think there was an exhibit I put in yesterday that showed little over $15 million for the company to recover in rate year 3, correct? It's in Pepco's compliance filing. There's an exhibit in the record. Do you remember that?
I heard talk about that. When you're getting into the overall revenue recovery, remember I'm an engineer. I don't know anything about that.
I know, but you just spoke about juggling, and the company's asking for reductions. So the company was approved in order number 89868 of approximately $15 million, correct?
If you say so.
Right. Will you accept that subject?
I
to check?
accept that,
Okay.
yeah.
However, now the company is asking for $31.6 million, correct?
Correct.
So it seems that their juggling of some things just didn't juggle to zero, correct?
What I can see is that the overall variance is 5.8%, which is reasonable.
Is 5.8% above what?
Above their budgeted expenditures for 2023.
It's above their budgeted expenditures.
Yes, when they came in for their multi-year rate plan in 2020, they budgeted whatever the final cost was, and they budgeted 329 million for 2023, and they ended up spending 348 million.
Just to go over some numbers. Pepco originally proposed over $300,029,000 for capital spend. However, the commission cut that back in order number 8968, about $94 million of projects. But Pepco spent over $349 million of capital spend. So I'm having trouble seeing where this juggling evens out to even just 5%.
So you're saying the commission cut back the 329 by 94 million?
Correct.
Okay, well, I accept your argument. I accept your assertion.
With that, I'm going to end my cross, Your Honor.
Okay. OPC.
No cross, Your Honor.
Pepco.
Yes. Hi, Mr. Austin.
Your Honor, one moment before, I just want to raise a point. I just need to find my notes for a minute. Your Honor, this commission has always had a policy that does not permit friendly cross-examination. In this proceeding, Pepco's rebuttal support for the prudence of RY3 expenditures leans heavily on the testimony of staff witness Austin. There are some projects for which Pepco and staff disagree, and those are the two allowances that witness Austin recommended on page 2 of his direct testimony, as later modified in his rebuttal testimony. So apart from questioning regarding those two projects, plus the modifications of disagreement put in Mr. Austin's rebuttal testimony, any cross-examination of staff witness Austin by Pepco should be viewed as friendly cross and not permitted.
Well, I mean, I'm familiar with the concept, and I've seen that in other proceedings, but I'm not going to preemptively decide which questions are friendly cross. So if Pepco asks a question, you think it's friendly cross, feel free to speak up. So,
That was not a preemptive request. That was just a statement of where I will be coming from as Mr. McKill
understood.
proceeds.
So I'm sure he understands that too. So
I can go?
go ahead.
All right, thank you. Mr. Austin, you were just discussing with Ms. Francis the 5.8% variance budget, and you said in your mind it's reasonable.
Yes.
Could you explain to me why?
Objection. This is friendly cross. Does not go to the specifics in his testimony.
That one I think, yeah. So let's go to the next one.
All right. Could you turn to page 5 of your sir rebuttal testimony?
Correct.
And I'm focusing on lines 4 and 5.
Yes.
Now, earlier in the cross by Ms. Francis, you said that your testimony was not designed to determine prudence. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there you indicate that with respect to some projects, you did indeed determine prudence. Is that correct?
Objection. We are not getting into the specific areas of disagreement between
Actually,
staff.
he can answer this one. So go ahead.
As I state, page 4 to 5, I did encounter instances of what could be considered prudent decision making by Pepco.
And what I'm trying to understand is where you say what could be considered prudent decision making, does that mean you made a decision about whether or not the decision making was prudent?
Yes.
And are those areas that you made a decision about where Pepco's decision making were prudent? Are those contained in your sir rebuttal testimony, all of them?
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. McKill needs to focus on the areas of disagreement between staff and OPC. Otherwise, it's pure friendly cross-examination.
Yeah, this time I think she's right. So
All right. Let me go at it another way because I just want to make sure I understand what's in your sir rebuttal testimony, Mr. Austin. Have you identified in your sir rebuttal testimony each area and specifically said each area where you determined that Pepco's spending was prudent?
Objection. He needs to discuss the imprudent expenditures where there is not cost disallowance, not use witness Austin to support Pepco's case or lack thereof.
agree.
All right. Could you turn to page 69 of your direct testimony? And I'm trying to understand your use of the ICE calculator there at page 69 of the direct testimony.
Okay, I'm there.
And when you did this ICE calculation at page 69 of the direct testimony, sir,
Yes.
is it correct that did you use an average number of customers or did you use the actual number of customers?
I use the actual number of customers that Pepco provided, and they did not break it down by residential or non-residential, but I used Pepco's overall, I believe, is like, don't quote me, maybe 90% residential, 10% commercial and industrial. So that is, I did whatever was the overall number of customers per feeder times 0.9, that's the number of residential, times 0.1, that's the number of non-residential customers.
And is it your opinion that it's appropriate to use the actual number of customers?
Objection, Your Honor. This again is talking about Mr. Austin.
This time I think he's fine. So go ahead. So,
Yes, the actual number of residential as opposed to non-residential would give you a more accurate result if the company can provide me with that. But in most of these cases, most of these data requests, the company said it did not have it could not provide me with a breakdown of residential versus non-residential customers. So I just, did the next best thing I could do. I know overall Pepco is what their total number of residential customers are and what their total number of non-residential customers are.
All right, Your Honor, I need to get an exhibit marked. I believe it is Pepco Exhibit 35.
wait a minute. Yes.
Can I get a copy?
Mr. Austin, are you familiar with this data request?
Yes.
And is this your response to OPC data request 3-4?
Yes.
Are the answers true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
With that, Your Honor, I'd move the admission of Pepco Exhibit 35.
So moved.
I need another exhibit marked. It would be Pepco Exhibit
30.
36. Did I give you a copy, Mr.
No.
Austin? That's a problem.
Yeah.
I hand you what's been marked for purposes of identification as Pepco Exhibit 36FR.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that data request, sir?
Yes.
And is that your response to AOBA data request 1-14?
Yes.
Is it true and correct?
Yes.
Move the admission.
So admit.
Need another exhibit marked, Your Honor.
What number is this, Kim?
Mr. Austin, I've handed you what I asked to be marked by as Pepco Exhibit 37FR.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. This does not highlight any of the differences between staff and Pepco, and it is a general response to a data request that could have come in much earlier. And there's nothing here that discusses differences between staff and Pepco.
I understand, but we have kind of let everybody put in pretty much everything they wanted, so I'm going to allow this. So.
Mr. Austin, is that your response to staff DR 6-1?
That is Pepco's response to staff DR 6-1.
I'm sorry, Pepco's response to DR 6-1.
Yes.
And do you cite that in your testimony, direct testimony at page 100, sir?
I do.
And you did not attach it as an exhibit, is that correct?
If I did not, that was an oversight.
I'd move the admission of 37 FR, Your Honor.
So admit it.
Mr. Austin, do you agree with me that Pepco is not seeking recovery for the EU Next Gen digital platform in this proceeding?
I really couldn't tell you. And that was a big mistake of mine. Next time I will, instead of reviewing all of these projects, I would ask you guys, what are you seeking recovery for, and not waste time reviewing. I can't really tell you
Okay,
whether you're seeking recovery for it or not.
fair enough. Do you know it? Do you agree with me, Mr. Austin, that Pepco is not seeking recovery for costs
Objection.
Let him finish the question.
Okay.
And then
of the one MDS matter in this proceeding?
Objection.
I think the witness said he didn't know, so.
Yes, I don't know.
And one other question. Do you know whether or not Pepco is seeking recovery for the Belle Plaine 69 kV project in this?
Your Honor, objection. These are not focused on areas of disagreement. Pepco is using Mr. Austin to buttress his case. Mr. Austin, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sustain that one. So.
Just a moment, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Austin. Thank you.
Redirect.
Thank you, Chair Hoover. Just want to get to an issue that was brought up at the very beginning, and we seem to a lot of talk about it. The approach you used, Mr. Austin, in reviewing the projects. On one hand, there you talked about, do you look to determine if it's prudent, or the flip side being, do you determine if it's imprudent? So I just want to peel away the label there. When you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that your analysis was whether the project was imprudent, correct?
Yes, so basically I repeated exactly what witnesses Stevens and Alvarez wrote, and you can see it on page 4 of my rebuttal through page 5, page 4, line 17 through page 5, line 2. That's how I approach my review.
So I want to drill down a little bit on that. What factors, putting aside labels of imprudence versus prudence, what were the factors you considered in your analysis of the projects?
Do you want to go through each project?
No, just a high-level review Again, I'm trying to
Yeah.
clarify your approach.
You can't go through a high-level review. We've got to go through it project by project. Every project is different.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Ms. Francis referred to the fact that you looked at the cost and benefits of each project. Is that correct?
No.
So you did not review what I would call cost effectiveness.
Not of every project. It's not possible to do that for every project.
Well, not of every project, but of the projects you did you provide analysis in your testimony.
There's, as Ms. Francis was saying, there's certain projects that you can do that, where you have a safety and safety benefit, and there are ways to quantify those kinds of projects.
And did you look at whether there was an operational need for the project?
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, Commissioner Sussman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Austin.
Good afternoon.
I think we're actually going to finish today. It's really exciting. So just to be clear, Mr. McKeel asked you about a program, whether you were aware of whether the utility was seeking cost recovery of that. Is that the mobile dispatch mapping program, or is that a different program?
I think he asked me about the digital something program.
Right. You start talking about IT, and I just sort of disappear. But
yeah.
okay. But those are different programs?
Yes.
Okay. So are you aware of whether the company is seeking cost recovery for the mapping program?
Yeah, like I said, and I need to do a better job of this the next time.
Well, actually, I don't think this is your. I mean, I'm looking at the filing that the utility made last year, and there's a whole list of projects, and the mobile dispatch mapping is included in that list of projects, and I can understand you would pick up this list and you would start going through it, not being aware that Mr. Lemming had added in his rebuttal testimony a list of projects that they think of as the Bible for rate basing, and based on some questions from Ms. Francis, it seems like they don't match up. I mean, there are a couple of projects she identified, ITN 70044, which is in last year's submission. That's not in Lemming's testimony, and that's a problem. And that's not on staff. That's on Pepco, and it created confusion for the commission, because I was going through your testimony, starting with your direct, which I've always been told, start with direct and then you go to rebuttal. And it was only in your rebuttal that I understood that there were a whole bunch of projects that you thought the utility was asking for cost recovery for, and I thought the utility was asking for cost recovery for, and as it turns out, you weren't. And so you wasted a lot of the time. You wasted my time, and you wasted Mr. Austin's time. That's not a failing on your part. That is a failing on the company's part, and creates confusion. And it creates confusion to this day, because there are projects that you're not clear about whether the company is actually asking for cost recovery for, like the mapping project. I still don't know, and that's a problem when we're in a proceeding. So that's not on you. That's on the company. So let me just ask, when you start your direct testimony, and you sort of said that you were reviewing the capital expenditures, but you're not reviewing the O&M?
No.
Okay. Who among staff witnesses reviewed the O&M?
I was the only person who reviewed this.
Okay, so you focus just on the capital, but not on the O&M. Okay, and then let me just get clarity on in your rebuttal, you're recommending, after having heard the testimony of company witnesses, that you're still recommending disallowance for feeders 14229, 14233, and 14206. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's only because I don't have all of the information.
Well,
to-
the burden is on them.
Right.
So they didn't meet their burden from your perspective.
Correct.
And do you have a number, a dollar number in terms of what you are recommending disallowance for?
So I would need to get that back to Mr. Riley, and he can get that to you.
Okay, I guess this is going to be a bench request. Could you get us those numbers?
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you. I think there was a lot of thorough examination on some of the detail, and so I know you went into a great deal of detail when you went in your original confidential testimony, and so there's a lot there. But I was kind of interested in, and again, a couple times you used the phrase an engineer's review, and I think in redirect there was a little bit of discussion there, but when we're here looking at now prudence, I know you were looking for imprudence, but again, being one of the commissioners, probably the only commissioner here whose name is on what was the number 89868. There was, I think, an expectation, especially for this pilot, that would mean something, and part of it was a concern that we expressed about affordability and also setting budgets. And so you kind of mentioned a moment ago, that you were aware that we actually cut $94 million from the requested budget, but the company actually went over that budget. So again, kind of going to the review. So you're looking at all the programs, okay, the new ones, the ones that are being they're requesting additional funds for under recovery. Did you go back to the original order and do any kind of analysis with regards to the budget set? And did you have any kind of dialogue with the company about, did you look for alternatives? Do you have a specific offset? Help me understand with that, looking at imprudence, does that play in at all to your review?
No, I guess I look at the trees, and you're responsible for looking at the forest. I looked at the individual projects to determine, to look for imprudence. Okay, each individual project, and if that's it. You guys have a bigger job to look at the entire forest, to determine whether the overall spending is reasonable or not. I'm looking at the individual projects.
Okay, so even new projects, things that were not considered at the MYP initial proceedings.
Right.
Those you just look at them
I
at face
look
value
at-
and just say, okay,
exact-
well, they may not have
exactly.
been in the budget, but
Exactly.
I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Does in the whole staff review? I mean, you're doing the engineering review.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone? Is there counsel, or is there any discussion about compliance or adherence to the order? Is that something at all that is considered? Obviously, we didn't get anything on that here in this case and for this reconciliation. But can you?
Yeah,
me what
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so that was never discussed. Okay. Do you get pulled into the I guess any annual review? Were you we heard about the program concurrence. Did I get that right? Or consensus program consensus committee. Do you? Is there any communication at all? Was there any kind of an alerting as like, okay, yeah, we were over about $1 million the first year, about 6-7 million the second year, but oh my gosh, we're looking like we're gonna exceed by 30 plus million. Did you get any kind of alert to that, or was that a surprise to you as well?
No, we didn't get any alert.
Okay, so you just took that at face value. Then,
Yes.
Oh, okay, wow. Okay, so I guess alert and back into any kind of discussion about specific projects, because in your testimony you talk about how I don't have it in front of me, but there were, in case there were a lot of projects that may have fallen below the $1 million threshold, but they aggregated to over $13 million now under recovery. So you obviously, it sounds like you went through that because it was in your testimony. But again, you just took all of those projects in aggregate at face value and just said, well, for the most part, none of them
Yes.
seem to be a problem. Okay. There were a few, and again, I'm kind of struggling with my computer today, where you did say, well, the company is going to have to come back and, justify. And what kind of things are you going to be looking for, or would you be looking for when they come back to, I guess, assure you that it's not imprudent?
Right. So again, it's going to be project by project. So I can't really give you a generalized statement.
Well, instead of a generalized statement, there were a couple specific items, and I can take the time to try to find them. But do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Okay,
I know
why
those
don't you
projects.
talk about one of those projects where the company is going to have to come back, and let me know a little bit what you're going to be looking for here.
Okay, so I'll go to my direct testimony. So the first one, I believe, is the Fairmont Heights grid, microgrid.
Right.
So I suppose we're going to be looking for similar things as we looked for with the Livingston Road battery energy storage project, because this project is replacing that project. Mm-hmm. So in terms of when they come back for the final for recovery for that project, we will be looking for similar outcomes.
Something along the lines that you looked at for the
For the Livingston Road battery energy storage project. Then the next one is the ADMS implementation. Okay, so that's
you don't need to go through all
yeah.
of them. I was just kind of interested in, again, as an engineering analysis, what if you kind of put these on the back burner and said,
right.
I'm gonna have to be convinced.
Yeah. So I mean, each project has its own problem statement, its own. They tell you what that project is intended, what problem that project is intended to solve, how much a project is going to cost. So when they're done implementing that project, we need to go back and determine whether the project is doing what it says it's going to do.
Okay.
So
And as far as the cost, as long as the project's going to do what it says it's going to do,
right.
You're not that concerned about what the cost.
No, we will be concerned about the cost. It has to be within a reasonable variance of its original cost.
And what's reasonable in your mind?
And
What-
typically, we started using plus or minus 10%, but in recent years we've been going as high as 15%.
Okay. And so nothing really kind of caught your attention.
Right.
With that. Okay. It seemed with the Livingston Road project, though, you did have somewhat of a qualitative review, because wasn't part of the reasoning for disallowances, it was just the management. It was the fact that the subcontractor mismanaged the project.
Staff did. I wasn't involved in that one, but our staff did a cost-benefit analysis of that project and recommended to the commission that they direct the company to seek another location to put that battery energy storage project, because we did not believe that was the best location. But the commission went ahead with what the company was recommending, and so that is why staff cannot now go back on its original analysis and support the project, support recovery for the project.
Okay. So none of the other projects got that level of scrutiny, though, as far as,
What do you
beyond, beyond just the engineering analysis.
what
but
what
just-
do you mean none of the other projects got that level?
Well, I mean, all the projects, it sounds like most of the projects we're talking about today just got the engineering analysis, but Livingston Road got extra review and analysis, and therefore
So what do you mean by an engineering analysis?
I was trying to actually ask you that.
So-
It seemed like you have a definition of, just looking for imprudence, if, the cost is not
Right.
as important
Yeah.
to you.
So imprudence could you could look for it in a number of ways. So in some projects it's easy to plug numbers into a calculator and get a cost benefit result. So I did that for a number of projects, particularly the projects that are designed to improve reliability. So you look through my direct testimony, you'll find a number of projects where I use the ICE calculator to determine, whether the cost of remediation that the company chose outweighed the cost of interruption to individual customers. So yeah, there were many projects where I actually did a cost benefit analysis, but that's not possible with every project.
Okay. And, okay, so I'm sorry, in your testimony, did you indicate which one may have gotten that next level engineering and then the cost benefit analysis?
So most of the cost benefit analysis projects you will find in the section called system performance distribution.
Okay. So those projects got that
Yes.
level of scrutiny?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so things like, EV programs, obviously that's an important policy, but again, and you may have already answered this question, but, on some of these areas where I think you returned them largely non-discretionary or, or non-mandatory, I can't remember exactly how you worded it. Did you ever go and was there any kind of a conversation like, well, maybe with the knowledge that you're this far over budget, we ought to start looking at areas that are clearly not mandatory to maybe put off or put a hold on? Did that kind of discussion ever take place?
Between us and the company, no.
The staff, when you're getting the
Or
reports?
no.
Not brought to your attention?
No.
Okay. All right, just, and with the supplier consolidated billing, okay, that went over. I was kind of interested on that. I mean, at some point, if, assuming that we do have that in our state, supplier consolidated billing, some of those funds are supposed to be returned to ratepayers. Is that being considered at this stage, or how are we kind of, putting a post-it note on this? Is there anything that, or should we be maybe holding funds back at this point, waiting for when this program is actually in effect?
Yeah, again, as an engineer, I can't answer that question.
Okay. Okay, the last questions I had, and I don't know if I'm even allowed to go there because a lot is marked and it's really kind of like 140 were confidential. And maybe the company, is that whole concept off the table of programs that where Exelon executive management were involved, or can I ask high-level questions?
Which part of the testimony are you asking about, Commissioner?
I'm sorry, I'm asking, it's a confidential testimony, and I have one here in front of me on page 158, line 16 through 19, and there are several other instances where this is an answer, but the specifics are marked confidential.
Right, like 158 got put into the public record
Okay, right.
today. So,
I don't want to compound the.
I mean, you can say directionally, did the number go up? That's okay.
Okay, I was going to ask more. So, and
Or
again,
did it go down?
Okay. Okay. And conceptually here, there were programs, okay, that were, I think, Exelon-wide, okay, and there was the Exelon Executive Management Committee, is that okay? Okay. Actually directed, or at least the company Pepco, to participate in a program, and then there was an allocation. Did you have a chance to look at those programs? Because in some of them, they came after the MYP. I think in one point you even say that this program was made more robust, and I'm trying to be careful not to step on a confidential, but that happened after the MYP. And then there was an overspend in that area, and then part of it was because Exelon had an allocation of those programs. Did you get any look under the hood on those at all, and question again, whether the company should have been doing those programs, especially when they're in this overspend, over budget situation, and then the specific allocations?
So again, I just looked at the individual programs and projects. I did not consider the overall overspend of their entire capital expenditures.
Okay, and even the allocation between the various Exelon companies.
So the allocation, I'm not sure what you mean, what you're getting at there. So all of these projects, they're allocated a different percentage to the different OpsCos, as they call them, right?
Okay.
Operating
But just the example I gave you on page 158,
Yeah.
Begin and end, you'll see what I'm talking about, and I think there was it's thrown out there that.
Okay, so that cost is
decided
allocated to
at
Pepco.
Exelon headquarters,
Right.
on the executive committee.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah, so that cost is allocated to Pepco. What about it?
did you have a chance to take a look at it? And again, this may be, I'm just answered already. Just the fact that these costs were being allocated at a time when the company, Pepco, was already over budget. Some of these programs we're talking about here were not, they were discretionary, not mandatory, but it seemed like there may have been pressure to take these costs because it was a Exelon-wide program, and I'm just interested to know if that was.
Yeah, from what I could see, from the confidential information they provided, the allocations were based on, I guess, the size of the company, or.
So you didn't do anything yourself to try to understand the allocation or the programs?
No,
And you
no.
didn't really question the cost at all?
No.
Okay. All right, I think those are all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
See, this is the problem going first, is that other commissioners ask questions, and then that makes me want to ask. In response to Commissioner Richards' question about variance, you said that staff looks to see a variance of perhaps 5 or 10, maybe, and now you've kind of gone up to about 15%. When it gets above 15%, do you start to think, well, maybe we need to look under the hood a little more? So do a little more exploring, try to sort of figure out why there is this sort of cost differential.
Yes, yeah, we would do that.
Okay, because there are a number of programs here that we were looking at that had, some of them were, close to doubling. I mean, I have like too much piles of stuff back there, but they went well beyond the 15%. But at this point now, as much as I can tell, staff is recommending that we disallow a chunk of the Livingston Road battery storage project and those 3 feeders. But that's it.
That's it, yeah.
So everything else, you're saying we can sort of go ahead and allow for some kind of cost recovery, recognizing, as Commissioner Richard pointed out, this is an MYP where they're supposed to stay within budget. And when companies given a budget, you'd think that they would if they're spending over here, then they kind of would delay spend over here. But that was not within your consideration of, you just went project by project to look.
Just went project by project, searched for imprudence, and if I didn't find any, then I didn't have the data to make a recommendation of disallowance.
No, I can understand. I mean, and maybe that's some of the challenges of having an MYP is that when you actually end up doing the project by project, you may not necessarily see imprudence, but the question about this sort of like maybe there's a small I imprudence and a big I imprudence, and maybe when we're thinking about trying to stay within budget, maybe there are, you have 4 different things you can do. All of them would not be imprudent, but perhaps from a business perspective or a spending perspective, it makes more sense to do one versus the other. But that's not anything that was within your
That's not
responsibility.
right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, I think all the questions I had were asked, so.
Great.
So, thank you very much.
Your Honor, just wanted to talk about the briefing schedule for a moment. I think the parties previously agreed to a couple of dates. I think it was April 4th for briefs and April 18th for reply briefs. That was back when we had hearings ending on Thursday. So I'm going to ask for a 2 business day extension on each of the briefs. First brief would be due April 8th. The second brief would be due April 22nd, and both are Tuesdays. I haven't had a chance to run that by the company, but staff and OPC can speak for themselves.
Yeah, we don't have an objection to a 2 business day extension on the.
Yeah, staff is fine with that.
If council for AOBA could go through those dates one more time.
Okay, I
That'd
think
be great.
the original letter that came out from the commission said April 4th for a brief, which is
Friday.
a Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting April 8th, which is a Tuesday. And reply briefs were originally April 18th. I think that's also a Friday. I don't have my calendar. I think that's a Friday. And I'm asking to extend it to Tuesday, April 22nd.
Company has no objection.
So you want the reply brief, you want April when?
April 8th for briefs, that's a
Right, yeah,
Tuesday.
no, I got that part.
And April 22nd for reply briefs, that's also a Tuesday.
Anybody have any issues? You're okay?
No objection.
Okay, so the briefs will be due Tuesday, April 8th, and reply briefs will be due Tuesday, April 22nd.
Right, for those Tuesdays.
Anything else? Okay.